Welcome back, YouTube, to It's Chow Time Pod. I got another video today from Courtney Ryan. It's actually a continuation of the last video I did. It's the same ladies that were in the last video, but she's asking them the rise of single and childless women and what do they think about it. So I think this one's pretty eye-opening, just how women view relationships and just why a lot of relationships don't work out in their minds, or why they choose not to be in relationships or have kids, kind of thing. So I hope you guys like the chow. Please click like, subscribe down below, and it's chow time, guys.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Courtney Ryan, and in this video I have a group of women here with me today.
Oh, shout outs to Courtney Ryan. Please, I'm going to put a link down below on the real video and her channel. Please go and like her and subscribe for her.
And we're going to be talking about the topic of the rise of single and childless women. So recently, Morgan Stanley has projected that 45% of women will be single and childless between the ages of 25 and 44 by the year 2030. So I've actually covered this in a solo episode on my channel already. If you haven't seen that and want to hear my perspective and thoughts, be sure to go check that out. But this video specifically is going to be getting the opinion and thoughts and initial reaction from a group of other women and giving a woman's perspective on the topic and why they think this is occurring. So let's get started.
Let's see
Women
why they
react
think this,
to
guys.
the rise of single and childless women.
I think a lot of men know this, but let's see what women think about it.
So basically there has been a study research done by Morgan Stanley where they're projecting 45% of women between ages 25 and 44 to be single and childless by the year 2030. And then more than 50% of women currently are childless at 30. So from a woman's perspective, also being 30 yourself, like what factors do you think are contributing more to women being single?
I think right now more of us are single because we grew up in this craze of going, you go to college and you like, now you gotta have debt and now you gotta work it off. Like we were a little more, you know, I hate to be cliche, but in that empowerment mode of women really grinding after it. And we've broken a lot of barriers, so to speak, in different capacities. You see more women doing
I think she's trying to
certain jobs.
say things what men say.
Maybe before only belonged to men or it was majority men. You saw that flux happen. So as a natural byproduct, some of us, when we get into that go mode and we're hustling or doing our best to be a leader in whatever field we're at, we have our competitor hat on and maybe some of our priorities took a back seat. I know for me, I feel like it's more like I just had some bad decisions. So like I don't want to say wasted my time on some experiences, but those were experiences I had to learn. So I feel behind, but I can't speak for everyone though. Those are just my experiences. So I think it could be a combination. Maybe, yeah, there's less pressure to settle down than there was so many years ago.
Translations, guys. Men became a little bit more feminine. Women became a lot more masculine because they were pushed to be able to take on these careers and these roles, and because they became more masculine, a lot of men don't want to deal with them, and they actually make more income. That's not a bad thing. A lot of these women that took on these roles actually make a lot more money now, but most women are not willing to settle for men that make less than them, so their dating pool just has shrank because their income has grown. And I don't think, I say a lot, I don't think a lot, but a lot of women don't realize that their income and their achievements overall actually doesn't affect the male in many shapes or forms. So that's why most men don't care for it, because we're never going to see it. It's not our achievement. Like, we don't go brag about it too much to others about our wives' achievements. Not saying we don't do it, but it's not like, oh, I married a doctor. You know, no man is going around and saying, oh, I married a doctor. She's great. She takes care of everything for me. That doesn't happen for men.
And truthfully, I always look at the glass half full. So I'm kind of like, you know what? I'd rather live it up, be a little selfish, and then when the time comes, we be popping out these kids and I will feel like...
She said it, guys. They want to be selfish. They want to live their lives before they have to commit to kids.
I've lived my life and I can be fully present for them, because it's not about me anymore, my life and all the things that I want to do because I didn't get to do them, and I'm going to hold the resentment against the kids now.
That's another one. I think a lot of women just want the full experience of life before they even start having kids. If you have all those experiences already before you have kids and a family, I don't think kids and family are going to keep you stable because you've already enjoyed everything in life. The simple things now are going to be even less enjoyable for you.
No, I think that it's okay if you're a late bloomer. I'm a late bloomer to everything, and I don't feel that there's shame in that. But I think if I had to pinpoint it, I think part of it is the workforce situation. Part of it might be people had more room to have experiences, and so now they're just waiting on the one.
The one. They're waiting for Neo, guys. They're waiting for Keanu. And it's so funny that we're in like the red pill space and we talk about, the Matrix and the red pill and blue pill all the time. And then women just talk about the one all the time. It's like, so they all want Keanu. That's what I'm hearing.
I think a lot of it, like I said, is hookup culture. I think that is such a new thing for like younger generations, or I guess just the younger crowd.
It's funny that I 100% agree. Hookup culture did kind of denigrate the family, the family structure and things. But it wasn't men that pushed for it. I think it was women that pushed for the sexual liberation and the hookup culture. Well, men aren't complaining, the ones that have access to women, because they're enjoying this hookup culture. But they didn't start this. I mean, remember, the access to pee is only granted by women.
That by the time we were 30, that all the gems are taken, and it's, if you find a good guy, like, it's hard to trust them and really think that they're honest, because
all the gems are taken by 30. I think it was because all the gems saw you get ran through, and then now you're in your 30s and you're saying hi to them and they don't give you the time of day anymore. I think that's more of the problem.
Some of the candidates you meet nowadays are just the worst.
I think it's that accessibility that wasn't there prior. So
I agree with that too.
My grandmother and my mom weren't able to have their own bank account. So like now that I have more financial freedom for myself, I don't have to get married to.
I don't know why a lot of women bring up my grandmother and mother didn't have bank accounts. I believe your mother did. That doesn't make sense. Like, women were given bank accounts in the 50s or 60s, I believe.
Secure that financial freedom. So like I think women are choosing to be single now because they are more accessible to different careers that are able to pay them to be single. Like there's no more where you have to marry a man to ensure that you're able to have an income. So I think that's the biggest factor.
I think it's funny that women say this. They're like, oh, we have access to all these things now and whatever, but most of you still want to be housewives. Most of you want the privileges that your mothers and grandmothers had that didn't have to work, but yet you guys spout that now you get to make your own money and you don't have to depend on a man anymore. But that's exactly what most women want.
I think there's a lot of things. I think that like even just our parents' generation and the generation before them, like women depended on guys to be their provider because they maybe didn't have the opportunities or just like weren't as career oriented as women are now. So I think that women got married a lot younger previously, like so that the guy could provide for them. So I think that because women have careers now, that they might kind of like push off that part of their life. And then also like just with like modern medicine and fertility things, like you can like freeze your eggs or embryos and like have babies later.
Another lie that's sold to them. These IVF and all these things, the percentages are so low and it costs tens of thousands each time. Can you afford like 5-6 tries and still get nothing out of it? I'm sure that'd be devastating for most women to go through.
in life, which that wasn't like as common or as available before. And then I also think the amount of options that we have because of the internet, whereas before, like, you had your people in your area, but now, like, because there's just endless options, I think that, I don't want to say people, like, don't settle, but they keep dating hoping to find someone better. So I feel like people don't always appreciate, like,
What she's saying is true, but it really only affects women and the very top tier men that have all that access globally. Regular men can't even get dates in their neighborhood, let alone internationally. They're not even getting swiped right on. That's just how it is for most normal average men.
they have as much.
Yeah, they don't want to feel like they're settling, right? So
Yeah.
they're single for longer. Everything's getting pushed back.
I feel like there's this rise of like independence with being a woman. Like you don't need a man, you don't need a partner.
She said it.
You can just do everything.
Don't
on
need
your
a man.
own. I think that has to do with it. Just this idea of being independent and, you know, getting your own career and all of the above. It's makes it harder to be with somebody and less likely that you need to be with somebody. You don't need a
She's right. When you're so independent and in your own career, it is much harder to fit someone else in your life. This is why a lot of males do not choose to be with strong, independent women. It's just hard for them to build around and with someone like that.
rely on anybody, and the goal is to not rely on anybody. So
So you hear it. The goal is not to rely on anybody. It literally defeats the purpose of marriage and men. Like, you want to rely on your partner. That's what marriage is. Yes, you can do everything by yourself. Men do it now. Women do it now. But when you come together, you kind of share some of that responsibility, so the workload isn't fully on one person or the other.
it's just not in the forefront of your mind for something that you're like thinking about. You're like, when you're growing up, you're thinking about like your career and how you're going to support yourself. And I feel like the world is just a very one person show now.
Maybe because I'm
Oh, feminism, guys, or effinism, I don't want to say it too much, really pushes that idea to them that the world is solo now. And it's not. It really is not. You have family, you have friends, you have a community that builds with you. Or at least you should. Like, a lot of these women, I guess, don't, and that is a big problem.
going to put myself on blast, but maybe because expectations are just too high, like I just said myself, and realize that it's not that realistic. And I just feel like with this day and age, men are just a little different, and marriages are almost just short-term relationships nowadays. So I feel like it's very hard.
It's funny she says that. Marriages are short-term relationships nowadays because the women are leaving at 70 to 80% of the rates. It's not men that are choosing to leave. This is the issue that women gloss over all the time. You know, when we bring this up, they're like, oh, but why did she leave? Why does that matter? She left. She was the one that didn't want to stay in that long-term relationship when you think about it. You know, even if we say there's cheating involved for both parties or one party, it's usually the women that wants to leave. Like, most men, if they're married and have kids, they're pretty locked in. Most men. Why? Because we'll lose majority of our stuff if we don't keep everything stable.
Hard for a woman to take a man seriously, let alone have a child with him, when you don't really know when he's going to leave you or you want to leave him.
So it's less.
She said it. You don't know when they're going to leave you or when you want to leave them. That's not what marriage is, people.
Commitment.
Sadly,
Yeah.
I'm not for it. I think it's actually very sad, but I feel like that's what it is.
I think maturity has a lot to do with a woman deciding to be with someone or not. And I feel like we are in a day and age where everyone wants to be like the coolest person. Like, the most liked person, the most attractive person, the most sought out person, the most sought out person.
I think this affects a lot more women than it does affect men. I'm not saying there's not men out there that do this or in this boat, but I think a lot more women are in this boat. They want to be noticed. They want to be the cool girl or the cool woman or the fancy woman that does all these fancy trips and stuff like that.
Then attracts many people to them. So women might not like that about, a man. I
Puts it on men.
Sometimes women have been through some shit, so they don't want to be, subject to going through anything negative in a relationship again if they found comfort in, being single. I think that's where I'm at. Like, I'm happily single. I'm enjoying my time with my daughter, and I'm enjoying my time building my career and getting to know myself. And I wouldn't jump into a situation with another man unless I really felt like this person was very solid to my standards. And it's hard to find that when you live in Cleveland, Ohio.
Oh, your standards are really, really high, and there's not very many men that qualify in those standards.
It's hard to find that when you live in certain areas, or it's hard to find that if you have a kid. It's hard
She was right about that kid part, but in your area, we just talked about how global access you have now, and so what is this in your area thing? See, it's funny how women contradict themselves. Yes, it wasn't her that said it, but I'm sure she agreed that global access now to men and women has exploded. You have access to everyone, so for her to say, "Oh, there's no one in my small town" or anything like that, then it just contradicts the other woman.
to find that if you're still growing in your career and your socioeconomic status and where you live. So like you said, the average male at 37 is only making, you said 50,
It was like 52, yeah.
50,000, and $50,000 is not going to be comfortable for a family with 3 kids. So it's like you settle and you struggle, or you take your time finding someone that's ideal for you. I think that's why a lot of women are single. It's like you have to take your time trying to find somebody that's worth it.
So they're choosing to be single versus settle, basically. Or like maybe
Mic drop on Courtney. She just straight up called him out on it. Rather than selling for a man that doesn't qualify for their 100%, they'd rather be single.
maybe they have very high standards and preferences, so they're choosing to honor those instead of just, rushing into a marriage or, having kids.
But aren't there other factors that come into play? Like, does the woman have a career? Is she
Yeah.
in school? Is she just enjoying being a young single woman growing in her
In the
life?
streets.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot less pressure now, too, for women to rush into marriage, right? Because in the past, we didn't work. We relied on a man solely for income. But now that more women are financially independent, they can support themselves and they aren't relying on a man for it.
Right.
So they're just single because they're not, relying on a man to support them in their lifestyle because they're paying for themselves. But it's interesting because even though women are more financially independent and we're working ourselves, we still tend to want someone who is at our level or above.
I mentioned it earlier,
And
guys.
then once you're making a certain amount of money, say I'm making $100K, I don't want a man who makes less than $100K. Well, I have just limited my pool of men by a substantial amount because there's only, a small percentage of men in that group. So I can't even find what I'm looking for because my standards are so high because of what I'm currently making.
Yes.
And I think
Damn, Courtney hit it right on the head. I love how she explains these things to these women, and I guess when us men try to say shit, shit goes one ear out the other. But she says it in a much nicer manner, and and they're kind of listening.
that is very common. That is very common among women now, of not wanting to date a man that makes less than you.
Mm-hmm. It's also, I think, a lot of men prefer to be with women that aren't on the same level as them. I think that men, this is my opinion, but I do think that men are more comfortable with women that make less than them. That's true. And I feel
Yes, we are. We are more comfortable about it. But we can't be with women that make the same level as us because the woman doesn't want to be with us. She's missing that point. We just literally discussed why women usually do not want to date a man that makes the same or less than them. Because of that fact, men have gravitated towards women that make less than them because they don't want to deal with it. This is just how men navigate through things. When we see that something is wrong with this particular demographic that doesn't seem to work for us, we will move demographics to try to tailor so we can find what we want. This is just how it is.
I feel like that has a lot to do with this ideal that men are the leaders and they're supposed to be providers. You know, that's like a natural thing for a man to want to provide.
100% agree. A lot of men do feel this way. It's literally innate in us. But there are men that are perfectly fine with a woman that makes more than them. It's just that relationship always goes south. Almost always goes south. There's very few relationships, even celebrity-wise, that we can name that the woman makes significantly more than the man. There's just very few relationships like that. And if they are, they usually don't tend to last long.
I think that men can be intimidated when a woman is on their level.
Shame tactic. Intimidated. We're not intimidated by people making the same amount of money as us. It just doesn't matter to us. You could be making more than us, but most likely that money doesn't even ever translate to anything for us, and other than maybe small little gifts here and there, where our money still translates to 100% of all the bills for you.
Or I think that sometimes men can get insecure if they're
She used both of them, guys. She used both of the tactics, insecure and fucking, what you call it? Ugh.
their woman may be outperforming them financially or even in any other aspect. I think that sometimes I've been in situations where men that I've dated got aggravated with me because I was too outspoken and they wanted to be the one leading the conversation.
Too outspoken or very disagreeable? I think those two things are quite different from each other. I think you were more quite disagreeable than outspoken.
And they wanted me to be quiet, and I'm just not that type of person. But I feel like
sound very
those
disagreeable
aspects
right
come
now
into play as well when it comes to that.
And money is a big one too there. I think only like 22% of women out earn their husbands, and the more likely a woman is to out earn her husband, the less likely the marriage is to work out. So the woman is less satisfied and the man is less satisfied. So it's like it doesn't work, right? So everyone is just more single, chronically single. What factors do you think then are contributing to women remaining childless? Obviously, being single comes into play.
Yeah, being single because of all of the factors of being single, like the career and all that. And then not having a kid, well, if you can't establish your career until you're like 32 or 35, you've pretty much missed your like entire you're almost.
She hit it on the head, guys. The women that are focused on their careers in their 30s and their late 30s have issues having kids.
At the end of your fertility, like you have like 5 years left before you can can't have kids anymore.
Yeah.
So that means you have 5 years to like find a husband that you.
She's 100% correct, right? A lot of these women. Nothing wrong with it, not shaming these women. No, they really focused on their careers. And just like men, you don't usually hit your stride in your career or hit your peak until about mid-30s or 40s. This is why men are more attractive at these ages. When women do the same thing, they've lost what men want, is youth and fertility. But they're also built themselves just like a man and think that because they built themselves like a man, they're more attractive to men.
You like enough to like have kids with, or just find a guy in general.
Yeah, I think so. And things are expensive. Kids are so much more expensive now than they used to be too for people. So that could play a role too.
I agree with that.
I think there's higher infertility now than there was before. I don't know
That
for
is-
sure.
Oh, damn, she did bring that up. That's 100% because of all the microplastics and everything. A lot of our sperm count and male testosterone has gone down dramatically from all the grains and things we eat. So she's right about fertility part for men. A lot of men are a lot less fertile.
But I'm pretty sure that like infertility, and maybe it is because women are waiting longer, that you're just not as fertile when you get older.
Oh, she brought up a good point. I didn't even think about that, right? The infertile, how men are less fertile now, and then women are choosing to have kids later. Damn, that is a big factor of men being so less fertile now, and women choosing to have kids at a later stage where they're a little bit more on the risky side. I can see a lot of complications happening because of that.
But I don't really know why else besides that, unless they just like don't want to.
Right. I think social media also there's
I believe it
this
does.
like movement to wait to have kids, to not have kids when you're younger.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like I just every time I get on TikTok, I see like childless and by choice and all this stuff, and also just people kind of saying you shouldn't get married young, you shouldn't have kids young, like live
Yeah.
your 20s and have fun,
Yeah.
and then do those things in your 30s. Is this something you experience online too?
Yeah, I totally get that. And I think the other side is that like people don't always realize that like the 20s is kind of like your foundation for the rest of your life. So like, yeah, you should have fun, but if all you do is have fun, then like you are going to be in your 30s and like kind of be behind when it comes to those other things. So I feel like it's like a balance.
It's also that financial freedom aspect, understanding like, hey, like majority of the money that I make currently being single with no kids, I'm able to use 100% of my income just for myself. And then I also think if I were to have a kid, could I?
There we go, guys. All the money she's making now, I think a lot of women view it this way. I get to spend all of it and not have to worry about anything because it's all my money. Where men can't think this way because we have to build families. We have to achieve certain goals and certain achievements to even get women. We have to own houses. We have to own things. So we can't just spend our money willy-nilly on whatever we want on ourselves. No, we have to start building a family before we even have a family because that's what women want.
Survive on the income and the lifestyle that I have currently? No. It's that thing where, it sounds selfish, but at the same time, knowing that I can't.
No, it's 100% selfish. This is the difference between men and women. Women work for themselves. Men work for the family.
Give a kid a better quality of life with my current income. Why would I do so? So I would prefer to stay single and childless without a child, if that means that I'm able to, secure that financial freedom for myself. If I can't secure financial freedom or stability currently, then I would never bring a child into that situation.
I feel like we're not in the old ages anymore. So I feel like back then it was more so like you had to. Women were basically, they wanted us to be rabbits. Like, oh yeah, let's just pop.
This narrative that women were slaves and just all they did was just produce babies for us and nothing else. I don't know why a lot of women push this narrative. This is not how. Do you think this is how your mother felt? I don't think your mother was just some kind of sex slave that produced babies for your father.
Pop out one kid after another, and now I feel like it's more so male, woman, separate, strong, not really as a whole anymore.
She's 100% right on that.
So we're
one.
kind of moving away from the family unit, and it's more individual.
I feel like women are very strong and passionate about being independent, and they don't want to rely on a man.
That is really just a personal choice. And one, I think it comes from this new, let's work so hard, let's be independent women and travel and not have kids and everything being overpopulated and trying to, protect the world that we have.
Again, this overpopulation narrative that keeps getting pushed. I don't know why women. It's not an overpopulation issue. It isn't. It's just an issue that women don't want to. But you guys bring this overpopulation up. I think it's because the narrative gets pushed to you. This whole global warming, like we're killing the planet. Do you just want to kill all humans so the planet gets to live? Is that what women want, or is that what this narrative is pushing? That just kill off humans of a civilization so we don't have babies? Like, I don't get it. Like it, and even Elon Musk speaks about it. We're not in a surplus. We're in a deficit. A lot of countries are in deficits and are really encouraging their citizens to have more kids. We're seeing it now. There's like in Japan, 10 years ago already, they have surpassed adult diaper sales compared to baby diaper sales. That means the aging population is much, much larger than the new generation. So the new generation cannot run the infrastructure and take care of these older aging generation because there's not enough of them there. This is the issue I think we're having, and this overpopulation issue is pushed literally mostly just by women in this narrative.
We have now, so it's not. I think we're a lot more caring is what I'm trying to get at, and we're
a lot more caring about the planet, but we don't care about others, and we don't care about killing babies, or that's like, this is what they're saying.
Realizing that the baby boomer generation, we shouldn't just do things of that nature and bring somebody into this world if it's not right, or the timing isn't worth it, or you're not with the right person. So I think we're being a lot more safe, protected.
Do you think there's less of a pressure now to have kids by a certain age?
I think there's a lot less pressure, but I think regardless, all women sort of feel this biological time clock just kind of ticking if you do want to have a family. Mm-hmm. So it's something to think about, because
it's funny they contradict themselves. They're like, oh yeah, just live your life and everything, but everybody does have the biological clock.
One day, you can't.
So I think that more women are childless because, again, we live in a society where it's, women can work and have careers and enjoy their lives and travel.
It's funny. Women we have less children because women get to do whatever they want. This is exactly what she just said.
And at the end of the day, a child limits the things that you can do and how often you
selfishness
can do them, unless you're financially secure enough to have someone that can, take care of that child while you're out doing all these different things.
You guys see that? You guys hear that? Unless they really equate money to parenting. A lot of people equate money to parenting, especially women, because they think they make so much money, they don't need a man and they can afford everything to raise a child. That is not how you raise children. Money doesn't do anything. It doesn't. It's you parenting your kids. So even her, she said she's rich enough to be able to work and just pay for someone to take care of her kid while she does what? Travel and do her thing still?
Things. But as a woman that has a child, it hurts to be away from your kid for an extended amount of time. So ideally, before I had children, or before I had my daughter, I never thought that I would have had her at 23 is when I had my daughter. And I saw myself, finishing my school and traveling and living more freely without as many obligations or responsibilities or attachments to something, because you love your child, you're attached to the child. So
sounds like she regrets having a kid.
Now that I have her, I still do these things in my life. But
you guys hear that? She still does those things even though she has a kid. What? I don't know why people don't put their kids above them and before them. It just doesn't make sense to me.
It's definitely limited, and it's harder because I have to make sure that she's taken care of while I'm doing all these things. So I know I'm like going on and on, but freedom at the end of the day, children limit what you can do and how often you do it. And it's a lot to get into that because sometimes women might want children, but they might not be ready for a partner. And your relationship with
they're bringing this up now.
Your partner, when you have a child, is very significant because then your roles start to become more important, almost more important probably than even the money that's being made.
Oh, she admits it. Roles are more important than the money.
And finding a partner is like a lot now. The price of living keeps going up. You know, so many of us are in debt from going to college. So many of us go to college and don't use our degrees, you know.
Mostly women.
So, yeah, I don't. It's hard. If I would love to be single without a kid, because then I could do everything that I wanted to do and I could blow all my money.
I wish my kid wasn't here so I get to be selfish and do whatever I want.
And I already know that I just made it back. But I cannot blow all my money because my daughter depends on me and me being financially secure. But if I didn't have a kid, hell yeah, I would be more irresponsible with, you know, the freedoms in my life. So I think your freedom has a lot to do with that.
At least having a kid makes her a little bit more responsible, I guess, from what I hear from this.
Yeah, it's so bad to say freedom.
No, but I mean, it makes sense. And, you know, especially you're a single mom. So it's
Courtney.
even harder. And I think people are talking about it a lot more online now, too, of like, these are the realities of having kids. And a lot of people don't feel ready for that. And it's just getting pushed back and pushed back. Women are freezing their eggs now, too.
I think women are being like fear-mongered about kids. Women are so sold this independent lifestyle, enjoy your life, live your life. And then they're also sold that kids take away from everything like that. So because women still want to live this kind of lifestyle, and, you know, the narrative gets pushed that kids literally take all of that away from them, it makes it so that they don't want to do it.
They're getting married later. They're not getting married in their 20s anymore. They're getting married in their 30s. So everything's just, you know, getting pushed back. So it makes sense why 45% of women between ages 25 and 44 are going to be single and childless.
Well, if
invest in
if
pet
the
food,
average
guys.
male at 37
Make some money
is
off
only
this.
making around $50,000 a year,
Pet food, pet supplies, box wine, you know it.
and you are a woman that wants to have multiple children. Say I'm 28 and I want to have four to five kids, and my husband only makes $50,000 and I'm only making $30,000 to $40,000. We can't live the lifestyle that would.
Why
be
can't you
ideal.
make the same amount of
we
money as
would
him? Or
be
more?
struggling to make ends meet, and you know, it would be hard to give our children a better life by having more. Like the more kids you have.
She mentioned it, 30,000 and 50,000. That's 80,000 combined. You can actually live a very nice lifestyle, or, you know, and still own a home and have kids at 80,000 income. It's just not the lifestyle that a lot of these women want to live. They want that yearly, bi-yearly vacation, you know, and the greatest, newest things all the time.
The less you take from the one. So if you're in a situation where you can't afford it, so that's what it is. Like people can't afford to have the kids that they have, but then if I wanted to have more kids, I'm gonna be more financially barren. Like, so it's like you have to pick one or the other, and that's one. And I'd be able to give her more opportunities by just having her. So,
Do you think, like, even thinking about yourself, like, did you have a timeline for yourself of, oh, I would like to have kids by 30? Or have you ever thought about that in the past or even now?
Yes, of course. Haven't we all? Yes, I have.
So you said that in the last video that you wanted to have kids one day.
Yeah, I'd love to have kids one day.
Do you think that there's a pressure to have kids by a certain age? Or do you think that society's kind of letting up on that a little bit?
No, I do. That's why I don't think people are having kids as much anymore, because I feel like society doesn't care and it's not as forced anymore.
Yeah, I was actually my first boyfriend. We were pretty seriously dating, and we had talked about kids at 18. I was ready to pop out so many kids before the age of 25. And he was a real abusive guy. So that just wasn't going to work out. Unfortunately. And I really cared about him too. But yeah, that was not going to work out. So what are you going to do? Like, yeah, I'm going to marry this guy and he's going to treat the kids the way he treats. Nah, it's not going to work out.
Well, yeah, and then you get stuck in a bad situation, and it's like it's going to end up worse for the kids and for yourself anyway. So what's the point?
No. So I, in hindsight, made the right call. But yeah, I had a timeline, and it was, so I think I read a thing, when you were a kid and you did or at a teen sleepover and you did MASH and you did all these things. My friend Marie, same one I referenced in the other video, we did all of that, and we opened up maybe last year or the year before a thing, and it had all the things we look for in a husband. And mine was what did it say? I think I wanted to do all these things by 25 or something. And it was tall, dark, handsome, funny. Honestly, some of those still ring true for me. But it's just funny how we have these timelines, and even as a kid, I was way off.
So I would want to have my first kid at 30. So I would be in my mid to late 30s when I'm done having kids, if that works out that way.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of women are doing.
Ideally, yes, just because I've always thought about myself having kids. Because I feel like for a lot of girls, growing up, that was that expectation. Oh, here's your baby doll. This is your baby. Can't you, you're going to get married someday. And now, looking at currently how society is, I'm just I don't see it happening anytime soon. I would like it to at least have 2 kids within the next 5 years, but also understanding statistically, the way that things are going as far as income for my future partner, it's just I would have to give up a lot of my routine lifestyle currently.
There you go, guys. Give up her routine lifestyle currently. Most women are not willing to do this sacrifice to start a family.
For my future children. And that to me is kind of a hard pill to swallow when I've already worked so hard to attain these things that I never could have had as a child, to now be you have to give a lot of that up in order to pursue a marriage or even to have kids.
This is why men say you were sold a narrative that contradicts what you truly want. Yeah. Now that you have this lifestyle and make this kind of money, you're not willing to sacrifice it for a family. This is the big issue a lot of men have with independent, career-oriented women.
Yeah, and I think that thought that you just mentioned is becoming a lot more normalized now as more women are working, and it's not just, oh, I'm married, I didn't have to work so hard for my career, I can just have kids and not worry about it because the partner I married can support us. Now it's, do I want to give up my career and all this time and money I've put in to now, raise my family and, have my career kind of be on the back burner.
Right. And I think that's the biggest issue. No one wants what they worked hard for to become stagnant because of someone else. And it's selfish, but at the same time, understanding kids are a lifelong commitment. It's not just 18 years. And also knowing that as a woman still, if I were to have kids, that decreases the income that I could potentially make in my future. I'm then capped because less likely to receive.
She even thinks about having kids is going to lower her income. This is such men thoughts, and men, she's completely a man. Her thought process is completely like a man now.
Receive a raise, less likely to be promoted because they're now saying oh, well, she's married and has kids. She has less time to devote to this job. So
she's wrong.
I'm
she's wrong.
Thinking about this almost every day. I'm thinking about taking the next step with my partner. I don't have a partner, but
oh, you gotta laugh at that one, guys.
Finding someone.
There's...
She thinks about it every day to take the next step with her partner. But she doesn't have a partner.
There's guys in my life that I could consider dating. And it's just really deciding and putting an effort into actually going out of my way to try.
Oh, it's too much effort, guys. She thinks about it every day but it's too much effort to try and date these guys to get what she wants.
Like there's guys in the world that I know of. I don't know, but I'm not reaching out to anybody because I feel like I'm not ready. But I'm contemplating with myself on
She doesn't know what she wants. She could have just said that.
reaching out and trying to date again, because I need to find a guy and get married, and I do have a timeline. I want to have kids before I'm 30. So I have like 5 years to find somebody.
Yeah. Which when you say it out loud, it's like when you don't think about it, it just seems like fine. But then you think about it and you're like, oh, if I want kids by the time I'm 30, well, then that means I should probably be married in 2 years. And then it's like crazy when you think about it. It's like stressful.
I mean, personally, yeah, I would definitely like to. I don't know. It's such a good question because it's like I could have a kid younger, and then by the time they're older, I'm still like a younger mom and I can go do stuff with them.
Yes.
I mean, there's really no timeline. It's just all about meeting the right person for me. So it's really just about when that happens.
Keanu, guys.
I'm
Keanu.
pretty much open to the idea.
Do you think women reach a certain point where they're over like the single, empowered, single by choice thing, and they would just be willing to settle in order to not be alone or by themselves?
Yeah, it's called the wall.
Yes. I don't know if it really comes with like age. Like I don't want to say like, oh,
These women don't want to admit it. There's plenty of women out there at 35, 40 that make TikToks about it. And these women just completely ignore it or what? Like,
women hit 30 and now all of a sudden they all want to settle down. I think it's more so like a situational thing. Like I know.
no, it's most women hit their 30s. They feel like they need to settle down because their biological clock is like that.
Like for me, seeing majority of my friends be married now and have kids, like it's kind of been like a slap in the face where it's just like, I thought we all were on the same page, you know, we all were just going to.
This is what happens, guys. All their friends get married and they thought, you heard her from her mouth. We thought we were all on the same page. What happened? Now she's left behind. And now she's desperate. And these women become desperate to get a partner because all their friends and families have partners.
Be like girl bosses and taking over the world, and you start to see all your friends become mothers and wives, and then you start to think, you know, when is my time going to come? And not only just that, but like, what am I doing? Like, why am I working so hard if it's not to see the fruits of my labor?
Correct. Why are women working so hard if they're not working towards family and working towards these types of things?
So, and that would be like having a nice partnership and potentially having children. So there's always that side of everything.
Right.
I think at the end of the day that once a woman does have a child, they want to be in a family unit. Women are freezing their eggs.
Once they have a child, they want to be in a family unit. How backwards thinking is this? You should be a family unit before you have children.
They're having children even if they're not. There are some women that will have a child and they don't have a partner.
Yeah.
They'll just have their
it's
child.
called
I think that's
selfishness.
more common too. Is kind
Right.
of what I was hinting at a little bit of
So-
like, you know, they can't find a man that they want. They'll be single, but they still want kids. They have that maternal instinct. They still want kids, so they have a kid, and they are just a single mom. Like I'm wondering if that will be more common since people will be.
It is more
you know,
common. It's
increasingly
the
single.
rise of
Will
single
everyone
motherhood
just
is-
not have kids, or will there be
probably
a
one
rise
of the
in
biggest
single
ones.
mothers?
At the end of the day, we're gonna keep having babies. Like that's not gonna stop.
Yeah.
Did you hear what she said? In the end of the day, they're going to still keep having babies. They're not going to stop. I don't get that statement, but okay.
But I do think that we're like the ideals that people of my generation, so I think I might be a millennial, but like I feel like Gen Zers, I think women are gonna be content, you know.
She's not a millennial.
A woman's gonna want what they make or more in a partner. I really think that about someone.
See, she just said that. She just said this, but then on the other half, she blamed men for being insecure. And what was the other thing? Insecure and what I forgot the other thing that she said, for not wanting or not being with women that make the same amount of money as them or more than them. No, it's because it doesn't work out on the women's side.
And I think that if they can't get it, they'll move on. Yeah. Like girls, I feel like women get fed up with people that can't, give them what they need, especially if they have kids.
Right.
So yeah, I think that maybe single, like motherhood may go up.
I think it is, but just because I think it's becoming a little more common, I don't think that it means we get a easy social pass. Because I'll say people love to give me sermons about how.
What are you talking about? The rise of single motherhood and like the praise of single motherhood is on the rise. Everyone's like, oh, yes, queen, you do you. You don't need no man. You can do everything yourself. Raising single children.
How I'm so behind. And while I don't think I'm the earliest on the timeline, I think it's odd people love to project that on me because I feel like I'm chilling. Why would I rush the biggest decision?
They're not projecting it on you. They've lived life and experienced at this age you're going to be quite in the danger zone. So they're like, maybe you should want to get onto it. They're just giving you advice.
Of my life.
It's funny how when people give women advices, oh, you're probably going to still want kids later. Women are so adamant and against these advices. Like, oh, I'm never going to want kids. Like, even in my 30s. I don't know why everybody tells me that I'm going to want kids in my 30s. Boom, 30 comes along. Oh, I do want kids. They're not telling you to, like, dog on you or anything. They're telling you because this is what happens.
To be like, maybe with someone manipulative or abusive who is like a lot of my past partners. I would rather heal, get it right, therapy the shit out of this, and get a good partner that we can have some longevity with. Worst case scenario, I'm adopting them kids, dude. I will find a way to have kids. So,
You guys hear this? I will find a way to have kids, even with a partner or not. This narrative is devastating to youth. The kids that are growing up without fathers are such at a disadvantage. It's so ridiculous that women do not care for this. They don't realize what they're putting their child through. Like men and women, or boys and girls. Like girls need their fathers. So do boys.
But yeah, I think it is more common. And I don't think we should be shamed for it. You didn't ask for that, but I'm telling you that.
Do you think, generally speaking, that most women want to be in a relationship or want to be married?
I think so. I think most humans in general want
correct
human connection and like a partner in life. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you would say people are single for other reasons than by choice. Like most people don't choose to be single.
Courtney! Oh man, that was a good one. Let's see what they say.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like there's a lot of factors that just they're not finding their person. And
boom, mic drop, right? It's because you don't qualify. That's what she's saying.
I think that's why.
I feel like it's a little bit of both. I feel like I meet salt and pepper and two totally different. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's 50-50.
Yes. I think no one comes into this world or even currently like living their life now thinks I'm always going to be alone. By nature, we're not solitary, people. So it's hard to say like, oh, I'm never going to get married. I always want to be alone. You're always going to look for a companionship, whether it's within a marriage or maybe just a mutual partnership or a relationship where you just never get married. You just always live together. No one wants to be by themselves for long periods of time. That's just how humans are created. So,
but yet
I don't think
women want to push the strong, independent,
maybe small
don't need no
numbers
man
of women,
narrative.
But majority of women at a certain point of their life, they're going to seek companionship, either through marriage or just through partnership.
I think that most women do, but I guess I'm not a good standpoint for that, because the friends that I do have are very like, I don't want to get married and I don't want to have kids. So maybe they're just too young. They haven't realized it yet, or I feel like most women do want that, but just the women in my life don't want that right now.
Do you think it's just a right now thing? You think they'll change their mind, or?
No, I think that the my girlfriends, all of them, they don't want to get married and they don't want to have kids, and they're perfectly fine with it.
Maybe there's an empowerment thing to it, but I think at our core, and it's tough because I can't generalize for every woman, but I think there is such a thing as like our maternal side or whatever you want to call it.
You can't generalize.
And
what's wrong with generalizing?
I think even just take women out of it, most people want to be, the human desire is to be loved and accepted. So I think that it would be natural to say that, yeah, a lot of women, most women want to have a relationship, want to be loved, want to be accepted.
Yeah,
Was
I
that
think
so hard?
I think that we do still strive for that. At least I do. It's just really difficult now because everybody is working so hard, especially women nowadays, to fight for our rights and make sure that we're heard and understood. So it's definitely something that has to be talked about with a partner, and doing something serious nowadays. Everything better be open for discussion, because I don't want to find something out and not know about it.
Yeah, a lot of women too, are working so much and so hard, and they're making good money for themselves. And then when you ask them, like, do you want to be with a guy who makes less money? They say no. Most of them do.
Yeah, for sure.
So even though they are financially stable and doing well, they still want a man who makes more, which as women make more money, there's less men making more money.
Right.
They're limiting their pool of people, then limiting their choices and potential partners, and everything's just kind of shrinking.
Yeah. And then I think it just becomes unrealistic too, that like, if just for the 1%, I guess, even the top 10, if you're making $90K and as a woman and you want your man to be making more, well, you're almost getting into that 1% where it's like,
You're correct.
well, okay, if you make
100%.
90K, is 92K enough for you? Or is that going to be like, oh, well, he barely makes more money than me, and this, that, and the other, and that's just like,
That's exactly what happens.
I think if you don't
That's
support
exactly
the
what
person you're with and
happens.
you're trying to one up
This is
them,
why men don't want
then
to
it's
deal
not
with
really
it. That's
coming
why
from
it's not
the
we're
right place.
insecure.
The 1%ers have more options of women,
Right.
and feel like they can treat women however they want because they're getting all the options.
Yeah.
And then women say things like, oh, well, all men are trash, all men suck. Well, it's just the ones you're picking.
Right, yeah.
Because
Yep.
you want a certain caliber of man.
Exactly, yeah. And then you're not open to the idea of a guy that makes $30K a year, has a Honda Civic, but loves his mom. Like, what's wrong with that guy? There's nothing. It's just, I think if girls are more open to
A
that
lot of women
idea,
think he's a loser.
and you got around a guy like that, who knows how hard he would work, to give you the life that you want.
This is true. Men will break their bones to provide for their family, and they've been doing it for all of millennia.
He could switch overnight, and the next thing you know, you're on a yacht in the Fiji Islands. Like,
All right. Not very many people are going to be working hard enough to all of a sudden be on a yacht on the Fiji Islands. Calm down.
anything's possible. It's crazy.
All right, guys, that is all I have for this video. If you liked it or found it helpful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel to be in the loop for when I release new content. If you like this style video and want me to continue bringing women on my channel, let me know what you think down in the comments. Let me know what questions and topics and different things you would like me to cover. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.
Gotta love Courtney. What'd you guys think of that, Chow? I mean, a lot of these women are just, being honest. That's why I like Courtney's channel. Like, she's not putting on women and just kind of just letting them talk, letting them kind of tell on themselves the things that they want and how unrealistic they are. And then she kind of tries to point it out, but just very nicely point it out. And a lot of them still don't understand or get it. So, yeah, you guys see it. Most of these women are very selfish in a sense where they don't want to sacrifice their lifestyle or their money for a family or kids. That's just how it is. And as most men want to raise a family, it's harder to find women that want to do the same with them. Hope you guys like the chow. I mean, again, go ahead and check out Courtney's channel. This just came out like 30 minutes before I started reviewing it. So again, please like and subscribe down below. I'd really appreciate that. And I'll catch you guys next time. It's chow time.